afternoon. Welcome to Abstrakt Xcilence. Happy Father's Day, fathers. It's a blessed afternoon. So we want to start off the day first and foremost in just recognition to the fathers. I personally want to say Happy Father's Day to my Uncle Bay, my Uncle Irk, my brothers, and a host of others that are still alive. But I also want to say Happy Father's Day to my godfather, Mike. We lost him a couple of years ago. And much love to my godmother, who's having a rough day. And Happy Father's Day to my grandfather, but also a big Happy Father's Day to my dad, who I lost when I was 7. And it never gets easier. So with that said, I'm not going to go too far. I have my kids here as well, so it's a celebrative,
absolutely,
celebration.
I agree.
Today, Brother Sean had a little piece he wanted to lead off with.
Yeah, I want to
get into the topic. Go ahead.
I want to thank you guys for letting me be a part of your show, Abstrakt Xcilence. First, I want to send a shout out. Actually, we don't need a special day to show the Father.
Absolutely.
Every day is Father's Day. You know what I mean? And again, for our earthly fathers that needs the stroke, happy Father's Day to you guys. I want to leave you guys with this. Just because you plant the seed doesn't necessarily make you the farmer. So now, again, to you fathers out there, you standing fathers, I mean, I appreciate what you do. We all need to pitch in and help each other to help our children out, to be productive and better citizens. So that's my spiel on Father's Day. Shout out to my dad, whom I lost some time ago, but still, I understand your pain and being a father myself, how it's important that we do what we need to do in order to raise our children, to take them to that next level, that next step.
Absolutely.
Because something, in this society that we have now, a lot of these young men are growing up fatherless, and we see a lot of this chaos. Not saying that the mothers are bad, all of them, but we all can do better. How about that? We all can do better because, again, we need to set better examples and be a part of our children's life, because they look forward to that. They look for that pat on the back. When I graduated, my mother nor my father, my mother was gone, or my father was there to say, "Good job, son." So I got my accolades from my friends and their parents, and that kind of thing kind of impacts a kid. So it's very important that we be a part of their lives.
Ironically, it's perfect because it leads right kind of into debate and discussion.
Okay.
I don't know if you did that on purpose or not.
You know how we vibe like that, man.
But, folks, what's going on? So we're going to get right into it. Miss Stewart's here. Miss Stewart Davis. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine.
The Ark is in the building. We have a caller before we even ask the question. So we want to kind of get to this question, but go right ahead. Caller, you're on. Happy Father's Day.
Yes.
Oh.
Hello?
Hello?
Hello? We can't hear you, caller.
Speaker thing.
Yeah. We're going to move on. Caller, we'll come back to you in a little bit. So we're going to get to the question for today. Siobhan?
The question is, why are fathers so undervalued in a day when fathers are clearly needed more than ever?
Which kind of goes back to why I said it connects to what you're saying, right? Because you were saying about the pat on the back. Sometimes the simple things, just like how to tie a tie, maybe even just going through the puberty process, having kids as a man, and them growing up and realizing, like, man, I was not quite ready for all of this at this point. But they still don't stop growing, so you kind of got to learn on the fly. And I think not having my dad made it a lot harder. And I realized, I kind of started to realize some of the things that maybe he went through and why, he maybe made some of the choices he made, why he isn't here today. That said, as you, I believe, Siobhan alluded to, so we should kind of reword that question a bit. Why are fathers in our community
in our culture,
in
because
our culture
I see that it's more so,
yes, so undervalued, when clearly the lack thereof is a huge issue, and the results show that much.
Yeah.
Well, you guys, I mean, just to chime in, it's a system that's by design, especially for black families, that chose to remove the father figure out of the family. Because something, if we look at our history, when there were fathers, or even, I'll even go good times, they had the strong father figure, in James, and so if you ask a lot of people that grew up in that era or name a father figure as far as television is concerned or media, they would pick him as a strong father, and he was the head of that family. So again, that in itself is teaching us the importance of that father. So again, now, like I said, that system or entity that want to take that father figure out of our homes, and then liberate the women, like, you don't need a man, you know what I mean? And so we have this genre going on, and like say, even with the women's liberation and the feminist movement and all of this and that, and clearly it takes two, to raise a family.
Absolutely. Which would kind of, I said, okay. So,
Just gonna get right into it, not gonna.
yeah, I mean, listen, the more I contemplate it, the more,
Okay.
yeah. So, usually I wouldn't do this, but, so I want to share my situation. I have 4 kids. 3 of them are sitting here. 1 of them I haven't seen in 4 years.
Take your time, man.
So I made choices, right? That led to, I guess the outcome, so to speak. I'm married. I've been married for 14 years, pushing 14 years. Been with her a little over 20. But we've gone through some things. As we like to talk about, I don't like to say made some mistakes, but we made some choices we shouldn't have made that led to decisions that eventually led to me stepping out and doing things I shouldn't have been doing, even though we were on a, but that said, I did what I did, and my other son's mother, his name is Aiden, didn't let me know initially that she was even pregnant or that I even had a child until about 2.5 years in. So I get a knock at my door, and it's a private detective asking me, do I know her? And of course I say yeah, and then asked me did I know my son, and I'm like, nah, I don't know him. Now, mind you, this is all new for me, so I'm thinking like, well, maybe something happened to her, so I'm thinking maybe he did something to her because I didn't know who he was at the time. Long story short, get paper, go to court, test, my son. Go through struggles, different things. Eventually she goes through some things that go on. I wind up taking my son not taken from her, but he had to live with me. So he was with me prior to her picking him up one day and whatever. So I stepped to the plate, even though I was married with children. My son Aiden is only 2 months younger than my son Jacob, who's sitting over on the left. Struggles, fights with my wife, tough times in the house, but through it all, that's my son. I'm gonna step up, I'm gonna take to the plate. That's not a brag, that's the point to get to what I'm saying. I haven't seen him in 4 years. After stepping up to the plate, doing all that, going through all of this, I'm still not really sure where her head is, and I hope maybe somewhere she sees this and hears this and it makes sense. But that said, I don't know why it makes it right for her to do what she did. Now, we did have a disagreement that was a bit heated, and I said some things in the text that maybe went too far, but it was prior to, well, in reaction to her saying something about my oldest son that she shouldn't have said, and I don't play with my kids, I lose it. My wife knows this, my mother knows this. Anybody that knows me knows you just don't. That's not what we're gonna do. That said, the best way you can hurt me is through my kids. So she picks him up one day after school, as she would on a weekend, because I had him during the week. He's going to school from my house. And I haven't seen him since. Now, I'm starting to get some general idea of the vicinity she's in. But, I've been judged harshly because I said I don't want to hunt her down on my own. This is not for me to do. I don't want to get caught in a situation. First and foremost, this is how I got in this situation. I made the choice of playing a game with my wife that I shouldn't have been playing in the first place. I should have just walked away from that. That's the real of it. That said, I made the choices I made. I like to think that I learned from them. So what I'm not going to do is enter into the game of her being able to use something against me. So I'm going to take and wait my time and use the court system the same way that females tend to use the court system. And despite people telling me this, that, and the third, I know who I am as a father. My children are sitting right here. And my son, wherever you are, I love you. And there's nothing your mother can do to change that. That said, that's where the question comes from.
Well, you need to be commended on that, bro. I'm giving you kudos on that, man. You know what I mean? Because a lot of fathers just give up.
Well, that's not even optional. I've gone through some things this weekend with my wife that has opened my eyes up to certain things and how people see things and perspectives and judgment based on, they say you tell half the story, so I thought I would just come here right now so live and everybody, Instagram, everybody can see it. So his mother, wherever she is, which it's enough people between, somebody's going to say something. This is how the world works. But I'm right here. I ain't going nowhere. Same person, same mindset. You will see me.
That's a lot.
I know that's a hiccup. To follow up.
Let me just say this. You know me, you've had many conversations.
Okay, thanks.
Me and you have had many conversations, and I definitely commend you just taking accountability.
Absolutely.
And staying true to being a man and not just a male. So we've always had those conversations, but you had said something during it when you were speaking about your truth, which validation is for Parker. You really don't need to validate anyone else. You know what it is. So, but I wanted to say something in reference to you had said that you're going to use the court system the same way women do. And typically women do use the court system, and more so of what it's not meant for. It's more so in a tug of war if things doesn't work out or
power play.
So I just wanted you to kind of
it's
not you're not doing it in a vindictive or spiteful way.
No.
You're doing what you have to do rightfully because that's the only way, because there's no other mediation resolution.
And I'm glad you said that, because I don't want it to come off. Ironically, part of the tug with why this judgment on this perspective is because it's actually the opposite of that. Like, whatever you think, girl, I'm not trying to take him from you. It's actually the opposite. People think I should come after you, but I don't want to rip my son from his mother. I would never do that, ever, not ever. I only had my mother for most of my life, so why would I do that? But what I'm not going to do is allow my child to be used as a power play, and that's what I mean by devaluing of fathers. Like, you can't use a child as a chip to control the flow of how he reacts or doesn't react to what you want or don't want. And I think that places less value on the father in general, because the father's role is far more important than just what he does for you or what he can do for you or whether he makes you happy or he's getting on your nerves, because that has absolutely nothing to do with what he does with his children. So the value should be put in that. That's it. I don't want to take, I feel like I'm...
So I got a question though. So what is it that what advice y'all can give to like young fathers, first time fathers and first time marriages, young couples out there right now looking at the show? Like, what advice do y'all have for them?
About fatherhood?
Yeah.
I guess for me, the only thing I can that just came and it always comes to mind is, history before future. I think that will eliminate a lot of issues, discrepancies, broken households, pawns, and static court things. I think when you have or know a history of a person, and this goes both ways, we're talking about men right now. I think when you do have a history or some sort of history with knowing the person or having history, meaning dealing with that person first before having a future, you can kind of like gauge characteristics, behaviors, both ways, men and women. But again, we're talking about the men. I think that plays a big part. Sometimes I feel like people tell us exactly what and who they are.
Mm-hmm. They sell us.
And men do, just like women do. Yes. Men do. And I feel like as women, it's typically overlooked. We can't see past what we want. So then a child is born and we do things to lead up to that, which we know what the ultimately, your multiple choices happen. You know what that is. So I just feel like if we had more history before futures, I think that it could help a lot with the strain on relationships and broken households, because I do believe that you can co-parent and for whatever reason things not work. I just think that it needs to be a clear representation. I think we ourselves need to, when we speak of men, we need to stop devaluing them, because even when we speak of Father's Day, we do air quotes. Mm-hmm. That's already you taken away. We don't do that when we talk about Mother's Day. We don't discredit women, and just there is absent moms and things like that, but immediately with our men and our black fathers, we discredit them immediately. The first thing we say is good fathers. We don't do that with mothers. We just say Happy Mother's Day and we make it broad. So we ourselves take and devalue our own fathers. So I think that we have to come together with the core of us and speak into it and pour more into it and stop taking these negative connotations and how we mean it, because that's exactly what we mean when we say it. So I think that's how the way of the world is. I think I think we kind of put out there and we set the tone for what is actually being seen.
And your question was what again? I know what it was, but I want to make sure I understand. It was the youth, right? Yeah. It was the youth, right? It was when you ask youth and kids, don't do it, B. I'm serious. That was really the simple answer, because youth, kids, don't do it. However,
when you say youth, you mean really youth?
No, not really. You're talking
just
about
the younger,
young adults.
Yeah, young adults.
Even them, maybe don't listen. If you can
why
wait.
Why do you say don't?
Well, no, I'm
just
saying
overall. Just
no, I'm not saying no. Listen, I love my kids. They right here. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying like it's not really about the kids being a problem. It's about not being ready to be a parent, because you're going to screw up somebody's life.
But this the thing. I don't
this
think.
Is real.
That thing about being ready. I think you can be 35, 40. You can be in your career. You can be stable. I just think, and you can. I just think that sometimes things make you ready. you know, and that's everything. And definitely with children, I don't know sometimes if you can always be ready. You can get ready far as miscellaneous things, buying things, but the mental part of it, I think that I can be around. I can be around children, and I can nurture and not be a mom and be a mother figure. Just like fathers, you have the. But when it's your own and you have it full force and it's all on you, it's a bit different. So it's kind of hard to say.
But this the thing. So, like what you saying would then say, because what I'm trying to say is some people wind up having children early and just probably should never have kids, but they don't realize it because they haven't gotten to know themselves yet. You know, they haven't grown into the point of maturity to understand their level of patience and actually what it takes to be a parent. But they may already have kids, so you can't send a kid back after you like, you know what, I just don't have the patience.
No
to be a
baby
parent.
sores, you can't take back to the baby store.
but you know, you guys, but what is ready? You know what I mean? As a young person, you're still experiencing life, and you're growing in that aspect. So
That's why I say you get ready.
yeah. So and it's a mental process. To use myself as an example, and I was proud of my record. I was 28 when my first was born, and I was happy with my record. Now, preparations or getting ready, because actually, who prepares? If it
prepare.
happens, it happens, and now, as the person involved, you hope that they step up. And you hope it is with somebody that you plan on being with. I mean, but things happen. And like Siobhan was saying, you know, history, and I can go for myself again. My history is coming up from a single parent family. So when a child was to be born out of my body, I didn't want my child to come up like I did without a father. You know what I mean? So that was how I geared my, you know, my future, you know, aspects and things of that nature. But again, things happen. And of course, in that, my son had to experience some of the things that I experienced. And that's the last thing in the world I ever wanted my son to go through. Like I was saying, the graduation at the football games, you know, you kind of look up in the audience and you look for that familiar face that give you that encouragement or whatnot.
This is the tricky thing about that, and it's funny you just said that, you brought that up, because I would like to think that my dad probably would have said the same thing. And I'm going to tell you something. I consciously knew my father's history, right? Mm-hmm. So quick background. Dad, 4 kids, 3 baby mamas, 1 wife. My mother was the last of them, but whatever. Okay, so that being said, he kind of did things similar. Well, he did things the exact same way, but twice. Mm-hmm. I did, but I knew that, and I consciously said I wouldn't be like that, and somehow it happened. Mm-hmm. So in my head, it's like, how? Like, I knew what was going on here, and I said I wouldn't make that mistake, you know, and I still somehow did, you know, and even with some other male family members, uncles and so forth and so on, like different things, you see it and you're like, nah, I'm gonna do things differently, I'm gonna live my life in this way. But then you get older and you go through things and...
But you know, sometimes it's not you. Now, in my particular situation, this was her way of getting the man. That didn't work. You know what I mean? And so, like I said, a lot of times it's not you. I mean, you know, yes, there could have been some things I could have done to prevent it, but...
Why you shake your head?
Because I believe that's kind of what the reason was for how things went down with Aiden. That's basically what I told you. Like, you don't get your way, then you put into action
You mean in correspondence to what he
What
was
he
saying
said
with?
in terms of who his son's mother wanted him, so when it didn't work out, that's why his son went through what he went through.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, this was her way of getting the man. Now, again, as the man, there could have been things I could have been doing just to prevent that, but I've dodged the bullets, if you will. Not saying that I was living reckless, but I kind of dodged the bullet for 28 years, and then all of a sudden, blam. You know, now, to take it even further, and she's my daughter, and I love her to death, but found out years later, well, not years later, I always had an idea, but she wasn't from my body. And
okay.
so
I got you.
now through
But that doesn't
the
make
efforts of the mom knew this, so she immediately came back with,
that would be another.
you see what I'm saying?
That's
So-
another interesting topic, because that still doesn't make you any less than a father.
Well, yeah, exactly. But like I said, as far as fatherhood and as far as history, I didn't want that for my children, because I know the struggles. I experienced the struggles coming up in that manner.
Some things you
You
can't. I
know
think
what I
she
mean?
says that a lot. Some things you just can't avoid. I mean, you can't plan for. That's one of
Definitely.
your
I wanna
favorite things.
go back to something you said.
And call in people to join in if you so choose.
I want to call it. I mean, not call it. I want to mention. I want to comment on something you had said about which is you hear the term all the time. Women have children sometimes to keep men, and then the saying after that comes and it don't keep a man. I think that loosely that saying should be altered. I think that some women may, and I think that the history is that women have children, so maybe it should be changed to stay in a man's life, because if you do have a child by a man, whether he wants to be with you or not, to some extent you're going to be in his life, whether
Oh yeah,
That was
you know.
Okay.
So
Yes.
maybe it should be changed more so to be in a man's life, because whether you are together or not, you have to think about it. You have now a tie to this woman.
There's
And
an
prior to
attachment.
before
Yeah.
you didn't,
Yeah.
this child is now not even 18 years, because at first it was like after 18 years, no, because you got to think about it. Even when children, when you get, it doesn't change. You're never not a parent. You are still a parent when your child is 40. You are still a parent.
Right,
So maybe
right.
it should be more so to stay in a man's life more so than keep them, because clearly
Well,
it doesn't make the relationship stay together. But in some cases, and I do think that some men will stay to be able to give their children the things that they didn't have.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
and they will make that. And women, they've said women have done it many times, stayed in marriages
But
or
when
situations.
men do it, though,
Mm-hmm.
it's meant, it's different. Let's just say that.
I think it's dismissive.
different. It's very dismissive, though, and
I
it's
don't-
problematic for me.
Yeah, I think it's dismissive. I don't know about problematic, but I think that you make sacrifices. That's the thing. What you might didn't want it to work, but when a child comes, I don't think nothing's wrong with if you and your girlfriend at the time, you're young, kind of like was, kind of growing apart, and she become pregnant, you stepping up and trying to put more into making it work. I don't think nothing's wrong with that. I think that you are supposed to change when you stepping into fatherhood, and
Right.
you make
Right.
sacrifices. You do things you wouldn't normally do. You put
This is all this whole, and I'm trying not to go off.
Well, like you said, Sharon, we need to change that narrative, because currently, as it is, it sets a mindset, and we fall victim to that mindset. So if we change that narrative, you and the mother didn't work out, but y'all should work out for the benefit of that child.
Yeah, I don't think
you
anything's
know what I mean?
wrong with trying to make something work out. That's just like with schooling. Anything that's difficult, if you teach people or children or men, women to gracefully bow, not gracefully bow
That's
out.
the thing. This is the problem. Everything is all twisted up. Like the whole dynamic of life and what it's all about, we put here to get to an eventual point. It's family. So explain to me why then would you everything else be the priority? And when I say that, it's this. I think we talk about this. Marriage. When getting married, exactly. When getting married, it becomes optional and conditional with which the things you can live with or without. But if I get married, I'm getting married to the commitment that till death do us part. So if you understand that point in that commitment, you don't make that commitment. However, because the idea and the design of marriage itself is a joke in this
we always
particular
talk
time,
about it's definitely
people have
a
a
joke.
mindset of like, you know what? I'm gonna get married because, well, you know, I want to say I got somebody here, or I got a man.
It becomes trendy.
Or this,
It's
that,
been
and the third.
trendy lately.
But
I would
but
say
you
for the
sign
last
hold on,
5
you
years.
sign yourself up for all types of craziness, right? And then you blame the other person, or you getting married for the wrong reasons to start with, and you're not even ready to be married. So then when you screw up and you start the games, right, and you F marriage up from jump, then when he catch up, then it's like, oh, well, you hurt me, but you weren't ready. You played this game to get what you wanted before you ever actually was committed to the actual.
Well, you know
union to
how I
start
feel
with.
about all that. So
Exactly.
I'll be quiet.
So when you're talking about real, when people talk about real and telling the whole story, tell the whole story. Own your business, because you choose to lay down with this man or woman that's taking you through whatever they taking you through. Meanwhile, the stand-up dude gets almost virtually nothing because he's doing what he's supposed to do. But the one that causes the problem, there you go. Because you can't tell me how all these chicks out here, you got women with 4 or 5 baby fathers, and you telling me she that bad, but she had this many, and she that bad. Somebody made a choice. So you can't call her a bad person, or even with the baby fathers or whatever. Like, you can't keep blaming the stuff on this person when you understood walking into the door. Listen, this ain't. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Yeah.
We supposed to be talking about fathers, but okay.
Let me jump in right quick. Now, going from Jermaine's aspect, and to answer your question even more, Anthony, and this is the importance of having a spiritual foundation. Because that that's the guideline that tells you the blueprint of what marriage, how you should act accordingly.
That would be a whole nother.
Well,
I think
but even still, it has changed.
I don't want everybody's spirits.
No.
I think the deeper point to that would be the covenant, when we talk about the covenant. But that's why I didn't even bring that up.
Let me just say this. You know how we always talk about like history repeating itself, or you know, the last time we spoke about love is an actual word was things stated like, I don't really want to get off course, but it was something in reference to what we were told by our elders and X, Y, Z misrepresentation.
Right.
Check this out. How about this? How we both agree. I don't know how you feel about what you see sometimes depict apart as the new millenniums and our generation with marriage versus older and elder. We never were shown a bad representation or a jokeable part of marriage.
Exactly.
We set that tone because I came from a household, 2-parent household, grandparents, my aunts, my uncles, everyone, my cousins had their father. It was very common. It was very common. So when I use the term that marriage is a joke, I'm always very quick before I disrespect any history with my own parents, my aunts, my uncle. I have aunts and uncles that still married. My parents, my football's parents are 44 years, 45 years. When I say that, I do say our generation. I feel like because we tend to take monogamy, knowing ourselves, all of these things for a joke. Back then, I'm thinking that the foundation of the covenant was needed so badly because of representation of slavery and everything else. I think that it was more so, you know where I'm getting at? I don't want to get too much off topic, but
I think the commitment in general was different, because I don't even want to say necessarily, because my grandfather, we just talked about this, my grandfather and grandmother.
That's a whole. Don't even say that. But
he had a lot of kids too, though.
Right.
So,
okay.
My grandmother though, they was the ones though, but they did a lot of things the couples couldn't make it through the day. I promise you that. And my family know exactly what I'm talking about. But my grandmother and grandfather would go at it. But however, if you step And this is my understanding of what I heard. If you step in the middle of what they're going through, you gonna have problems. So at that point, what I'm telling you is I always say that's the type of love I want. Like, that's the commitment that I want. That's that. Listen, if you want to get out of here, we're gonna get out of here. You be like Hunger Games. That's what I want. But that's commitment. It's not saying that's what you want, that energy, that environment. But I'm saying the commitment to lock in the fight for something bigger than yourself. That's what I believe the company should be about. But you can't do that when you got scarred little girls and
it's supposed to be about fathers, so stop talking about women.
Okay. I'm sorry. That's my apology.
So what do y'all think the term a good father went wrong at, like somewhere down the line, to where fathers were looked up as heroes and now they looked up to where now they just like deadbeat dads to everybody else?
I'll let you.
I think it's I guess more so of, I really feel like it's our culture. I'm learning a lot when I get around other ethnics and backgrounds. I'm learning a lot. Some things and certain things we go through, we say we do. I'm learning that it's us. Yeah. It's not like a home. It's not a male more so thing. It's our broken families and household. I don't know where the deadbeat dad part came into place, but here's the thing. Maybe some of it is the household and what is being put out there, and how I was stating earlier with how we do classify men or how we do the Father's Day. It's always like you say something, but you undermine it, that type of thing. So I think the negative connotation has been so welcoming, never checked, never, we check things any other time, but we probably allowed this to go too far because I didn't hear that term a lot growing up. I honestly didn't see, and maybe because back then children were children, we played, we were to be seen, not to be heard, so we really didn't. I come in your home, if your dad wasn't there, I just maybe assume he was at work.
You said I was talking about women, so now I'm talking about men. That problem is because men are different now too. The men are a lot
males
weaker minded. I'm sorry, you're right. The males are a lot weaker minded in the sense of, listen, the simplest thing for me, which goes over way too much, that I'm totally not okay with and take all flack for, is happy wife, happy life. My uncles, my grandfather, it would have never flew.
He always say that.
It would have never flew. Happy wife, happy life. Like, y'all, man, listen. Go ahead. But anyways, that's gotta come from mentality.
Somewhere the only thing I could think is we started to devalue our men. And
right then, when they started to do stuff, allow stuff like that. When you
happy life, like happy wife does not happen. That's just like overall.
Again, I say with the newfound freedoms that black women gained. Now, they joined this white organization because they were fighting for their freedoms. They couldn't smoke, they couldn't vote. And so them individually, let's say for instance, as a single group of white women, couldn't pull it off. So they had to employ the help of the black women in order to get their agenda across. Now, once that became a thing, okay, black women was like more and more, because throughout history, black women has always been basically the pillar of the family.
Absolutely.
Because again, we as men, we couldn't stand up to massa in them, and so the mother had to protect the son, and so that whole type of thing just continued to get worse. You know what I mean?
You can't be the pillar of the family if you twerking and taking selfies.
Say that again?
You can't be the pillar of the family if you're twerking and taking selfies. It's
impossible.
Okay. No, I'm making a point.
Okay. Well. Okay. Now
that's a whole new.
That's a whole. Yeah. Now, if they was twerking back then, it was by accident.
Yeah, but listen to what I'm saying. I get what y'all saying, but you got to understand what you talking about was then. And if we going, because growth is uncomfortable. If we gonna call a spade, we got to talk about what's going on now and how to fix that.
But you didn't see that back then, so it didn't come from back there.
It didn't. But what I'm saying is that was then. How do we fix this? Because that's what he asked me.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well,
we don't know.
we do have to get back involved in who we are, and first and foremost, knowing your self-worth.
Or maybe just
That's the pledge.
uplifting our men more. I think if we start there, just uplifting our men more, maybe that will start to set the tone for being able to give them, not even really give them, because women, we don't do that with women. So I just think setting the tone and being more positive and accepting and praising our men more, I think that will help change the narrative about
sometimes it's just simple
deadbeat
stuff,
dads
Yeah.
and no good
Just
men
simple
and those things. And I think that maybe if we just stop, you know how we said no to the R word, maybe if we stop using certain things and trying to degrade out,
plays
you
a
know,
part in
like
that,
maybe
so.
that's the only thing I can think of. We would have to change, because I really don't even know where.
Actually, I think if
It
you
came
could take
from.
if you could take and take that away for a second, because I think that does, all jokes to the left. I mean, I think money plays a huge part.
You said money.
Yes, it
Where
plays
did
a
money
huge
come
part
at?
in the devaluing of such. Because I'm saying from the standpoint of, if I'm a good father per se in terms of investment and action, but I'm not necessarily able to afford to be able to give the amount of money that you request, I'm then a bad father, even if I'm a good father. You know what I'm saying? You don't get it?
Yeah, I get it.
So it's to say, like, if I can't afford my child, I'm not a good child. I'm not a good father, no matter what I do. In some cases, depending on the mindset of.
No, that's true.
Yeah,
I
so-
can give you that. That's true. Wow.
Is it
Whoa,
the man
when I heard
mindset
that,
or the woman mindset?
both. I think
yeah,
the women
you see what
have
I'm
been
saying?
putting out there so much that sometimes we make
We both-
men
yeah,
feel
we
like
take-
if you all
absolutely,
don't.
yes.
But it's funny because when you, it's so many sayings that I don't understand, and I want to mention that because without saying so much, the way I grew up with my father and uncles and my dad being in the street and things like that. I didn't know that growing up. We don't know things about that that
We weren't
whole
exposed
Northeast
to
racial
that,
area.
right.
We were children, so
We
we
weren't
didn't know. You know
exposed
how
to it.
you all know? We didn't know. We were literally children to be seen, not to be heard. Our parents' stories were told by other people to us.
Yep.
We didn't know these things. So coming up, I tell people all the time when they say, oh, you and your sisters, you all had this, you all had that, Gucci this and that. And I always tell people, if you don't give me, to a certain age, we do remember certain stuff. But if you don't give me a picture and I'm going through old memories, I can tell you more about my upbringing. I mentioned more about cutting down the tree and going to the Christmas tree farm and sitting and making Easter baskets and doing these things more than I do the earrings with my name in it. Because those, for me, I was lucky enough to be in a household where we were financially stable, but we also had that time. My mom did a lot of hands-on stuff. My father did too. So for me, I don't think that the financial part overshadows the time. I think that it should be a clear balance, because
that's
think
not
about
even a
celebrities,
question.
think about
not
basketball
even a
players.
question.
Their children are, most of them are financially well off, but what about the ones that's on the road and miss the games and all those things? I'm pretty sure these young guys whose parents are doctors and so forth, I'm pretty sure they would much rather them to take off and catch a game or those things more than they would the finances. And that's just one of those things. When you hear people maybe put their finances more, I really just think that's their mindset. Maybe
Because-
that's what they were brought up with.
And this is a fact of life. Nothing replaces human interaction. When
Positive
you're talking
strokes.
about growing
When
in
you said
relationships,
that, I ain't even gonna
friendships,
tell you what I thought.
like,
No, I believe that.
But in your life,
in
Sharon,
terms of this era, I'm sorry, my bad.
No,
in
you
terms
got-
of social media, like, you can't replace that. So investment of time is probably the most underappreciated thing in our society today, because we spend so much time, like I said, either texting or fly by night. It's quick. Even in our conversations now, you notice that people answer quick. They don't want to talk. They don't want to read a whole lot. Everything has to be abbreviated. It's sad.
Listen, when you were saying that about the investment and the time, what just immediately came to my mind was, I don't know if you guys remember Annie the movie Annie,
Yeah.
Hard Knock Life,
I'm sure.
and when she left the orphanage and went to Mr. Warbucks' house, and they were all, telling her, oh, you get here, there's this huge house, and I remember when she looked around, and the lady was like, oh, okay, so where do you want to go? And she looked and she said, maybe I should start with the steps or the windows so I can work my way down. And they were like, no, Annie, you are a guest. You are not supposed to lift a finger. We'll cater to you. And the first thing she said is, how do I earn my keep? I think that, she didn't have money. She knew she didn't. So her way of earning her keep, she didn't think she could stay there without doing anything.
Right.
And that was, I'm just using that because I always remember that as a child,
That's a great analogy,
when Annie said that, how do I earn my keep? And they were like, you're a guest. You don't have to do anything. I think that when we talk about that finances thing, it is also when we, if you don't have the finances, you do the time. But you have a lot of people who have the finances and they feel like because they don't have to spend the time.
Right.
So the ones that is in a limbo and maybe not financially stable enough to be able to afford the things that maybe the other parent is asking or the child is asking, the only medium to that is to, of course, be there as much as possible. And still you have to survive though. But when you were saying that, that's the first thing I thought about when you were talking about the finances, when Amy was saying, you have to earn your keep. And that's what people say. You all say it all the time. My kids can't eat these books and this, that, and the third. We got to kind of like maybe change saying all that stuff.
This was my thing. Like people think one way or the other, whatever it is or whoever you are, like people think, or they base their value on a salary or a number to start with. So that would then allow a sense of false security on who they are and where they are in society or where they are in life in general. Because you make six figures, you feel like I'm smart and I'm automatically a good parent, and that also makes me good wife material, right? But how can you place value in the money? Because if you don't have the money, who are you? And I tried to explain this to many people that like to test different theories with me, that whether I have it or whether I don't, you're going to get the full thing no matter what. You want the smoke, you can get it.
Well,
No
a toy can't
Yeah,
replace that interaction or that pat on the back. You know what I mean? That kids need, that positive stroke. Like Siobhan, in your life with your family, you receive constantly positive strokes that made you who you are today, and your mindset on things. So now the reverse of that, and I'm sure you guys probably heard it from time to time, you might be in a store and a mother may just degrade her child. Now if you keep influencing that type of attitude, the child's going to grow up with that negative attitude. So that's the importance of that positive stroking. So it doesn't matter what kind of money you got. Give an example. We did a little thing for 1441 where we was out there feeding the homeless. It was two brothers. They was twins. Now, and they looked like homeless cats, and they was raggedy as a can of sauerkraut, is an old saying. But anyway, as raggedy as they were, when their nephew seen them, they ran to the boys' arms and gave them unconditional love. They didn't see the raggedness. They just saw the love of that particular. So those cats, in their state that they were in, were stroking this kid with some positive strokes to the point that the kid didn't see the raggedness. The kid didn't see the bumminess. The kid didn't see the homelessness. The kid saw it was a love. And the mama had to pull the kid away because they didn't want to leave their uncles. So that's the impact of that positive stroke. So I don't know what their relationship was, but it was something that those kids didn't see. None of that. And all they knew, that was Uncle Bob, and they ran over and hugged Uncle Bob.
And I think to add to the point of answering your question, I think I don't know how I missed that. The first thing you can do is find you. That's how you can say you give any advice to young people on being a parent. Like before you become a parent, if possible, learn yourself, because I think that'll help a lot in terms of what you draw in. people go looking for somebody to have a kid with, and that was not how it was designed. If you if you work on being the best version of yourself that you can be, your energy will attract the people and situations that God has for you eventually. But you have to work continually, every day, work on being the best version of yourself. Treat people the way you want to be treated. Think about what you're saying before you speak. Just little simple things. It's about you in the end, because what you attract a lot of the times is what you give. So.
And just to add to that, when Jermaine was saying it to you, I was thinking immediately, maybe kind of just one of the things that when you had asked early on with new parents, new fathers, new husbands, all the above, fairly new and young. I think the only thing I could say to that is the whole time while everyone is talking, I think the only thing that I'm thinking, well, the thing that I'm thinking right now is be who you needed.
Mm-hmm.
Whether if you needed a brother, you needed something from your big brother, you needed more from your dad, more from your uncle, more from your father.
That's
so
dope.
when you become those things, you can kind of be that you needed to your child or your niece or your nephew. I think that can kind of make us see things a bit different when it's difficult or when it's hard times or when there's some things going on and you just like,
absolutely.
just... Jermaine is on one today. Yeah, child support, all the above. But I would say be what you needed. Whatever it is you needed, whatever it was different, be that at whatever time, not necessarily age, whatever it is at a difficult time, or the person you felt that you needed.
All right. Back to me, I guess.
Yeah.
She said I was on one. I was trying to just let y'all do y'all thing. You know, I didn't want to keep going that. Nevertheless, I think we can all do a better job, honestly, of taking accountability for the choices we make. Because I think once we really begin to do that, then we can, one, you don't have time to take and point the finger if you're really honest, because we all know we're imperfect, right? And despite those of us that believe that,
Jermaine talking about me.
you know, so we all have our flaws, man. So you're not gonna get out of here, meaning life, without flaws. So you kind of just have to hone self, and when you're doing that, you know, there comes accountability. But if you're not accountable for your choices, you're gonna point the finger, and it's always gonna start war. It's always gonna start war because you're guilty of something too. I'm guilty of something. You're guilty of something. So the best thing to do is, you know what? Let me take this on the chin. You got me, shawty. Good one. I'm gonna own up to it. I'm gonna do my bit and lick my wounds and grow from it. You know what I'm saying? And rather than continually fighting wrong, so you're gonna compound the wrong with the wrong, and then what? And then you wonder why we have so many issues in the community. Like nobody wants to just be accountable. You know what? I probably shouldn't have done that. Yeah, I slept with so and so, and that probably was a bad choice. It wasn't a mistake because I enjoyed it, but it was definitely a choice.
Right, and it doesn't always warrant the actions behind it that's caused because if things
that's the part I have to deal with.
That's what I be saying that to you. It doesn't warrant those type of behaviors though. I mean, we can disagree and things like that, but just because I don't agree with something you say, I don't get to snatch your wallet and you ain't getting it back.
Take your son for 4 years and not see him, right? Yeah,
I was just gonna go with the wallet, Jermaine, but okay, cool. Yeah, basically. So and just to add to that, about the undervalue of our fathers, absent men are just as prevalent. Our absent fathers are just as prevalent as our toxic mothers.
Hey.
Yeah.
And that's just to make it, honestly, we talk more about that, but it's just as toxic and just as bad as for our children as our, no, don't go. So I say that to say even the things of how did we get deadbeat dads, if I always say this to you. I didn't see things go on in my household with my parents. My mom had her little sister in the same community as us, the same building. They were really close, so I always tell Jermaine, whatever my parents went through, I'm assuming because I didn't see it in the household, she was confined in her sister. Mm-hmm. She would maybe tell him because she didn't tell me bad things, or my sister. We didn't see those things. Whatever that was going on, whatever issues they had in their marriage, I'm assuming they may have confided into their friends because they didn't confide into us. Mm-hmm. So that's the only thing about that. That's why I mentioned about the toxic with the women and the ops. And you hear so much about the fathers not being in, but it's so many toxic household with the moms.
I was going to ask this question. That's why I laughed. But since you brought it back, I wasn't going to ask it. But then I'm going to go ahead and ask it. So how can you have so many great mothers on Mother's Day, and all these great mothers crown themselves good and great mothers, and all these dysfunctional, screwed up situations in schools with these children, and the PTA, specifically in our community, the PTA rate in most of these meetings are like 20%. Your kid in some cases may be reading 2 levels below, but they fly and they fresh. And you know what?
We made
the world has already said that you're a great mother. So therefore, you now take into the concept
you
that
get women who don't even have their children being wished. So it's what is acceptable, because I'm gonna be honest, when I hear so many people bash men, I know a lot of young guys, and I would say the majority, I know men who don't have children, but the ones that do are great fathers, very good fathers. So sometimes I be looking at females, well, who are you around? Because I see great fathers a lot. I see it a whole lot. I'm not saying, I know that there are just maybe not as equal as women, but I see a lot of my son, godfather, is phenomenal. Stepped up before he even had his own child. Our son was born first, and he stepped in, really young, never having his own. At this point, he didn't have his own child, and did everything. School, meetings, IEP meetings. We went to go see special needs schools, all of these things. A friend of mine named Londo, so many men that I know that have children and not with their child's mother. They are great stand-up men. My brother, my cousins, they might not in their lifestyle, but when it comes to their children, they are great, phenomenal men. And I feel like it needs to be put out there more. It's definitely underlooked. My niece's father, he is just he's everything, and they adore him so much. So the only thing I could think of is the household adoring our men more, because I see good fathers. I definitely see them. And I see the young good ones too. Nobody has it all together in the beginning, right, and everything is a hiccup. But it doesn't take the fact from being a great father. I might not be great to you in a relationship. It does not take the fact that he's a great father.
That's what has to change, because basically everything you just said points to the point. If I just said clearly there are a lot of stand-up dudes, obviously there's some perception issues here. And if she's louder than him, and matter of fact, he may not even be trying to defend himself, because like you said, I'm not validating what I am if I already know what I am. And as a real man, I'm not doing it. So perspective. If all she yells is he ain't, at some point you believe that's the majority of what
history before future. And if a future side up in there,
that's it.
Listen,
that's it, folks.
Gotta figure it out.
We are at the end of our show, and as always, we want to take a walk down some seriousness for a second
and wish all the fathers a happy,
absolutely,
safe, fulfilling Father's Day.
Just shout. Matter of fact, y'all get y'all Father's Day things. I did mine at the beginning of the show before we wrap up.
I like to wish happy Father's Day to my dad.
Come on, boo.
I know he probably cooking a bomb meal somewhere.
Work.
I know he is. I'm coming over to the house. I'm coming to get my plate. And happy Father's Day to every other male in my family that have made an impact in my life as a motivation and a hero. Happy Father's Day to y'all.
And I would like to send a happy Father's Day to my daddy. I'm a daddy's girl. I appreciate you. I love you so much. A happy Father's Day to my husband. Is such a wonderful father, and an uncle dad to my nieces that we've raising. Happy Father's Day to Duck, Donald, my son's godfather, my brother Kevin, all the men who's been instrumental to the upbringing of my son life, my uncles, even the cousins that step in to take in the role to raise children. So happy Father's Day to everyone.
So I just wanted to say before we wrap it up, man, happy Father's Day, fellas, my brothers from another. Everybody, fellas, man, listen, keep doing what you do. I know some stand-up dudes out there really living that life for their kids, and I appreciate you. Whether anybody else does, know all love, all the time. Gifted out and driven. Abstract excellence, baby. Tell them what time it is.